Well, sir, it's early evening as we enter the small house halfway up in the next block now. And here in the living room we find Mr. Victor Gook all by himself. Mr. Gook is at the telephone, chatting with his friend and fellow office worker, Ike Niesuffer. Listen.
No, now you take Plant 17 there in Dubuque, Iowa. Seems they have a foreman, an assistant foreman, and an assistant foreman's helper. Sort of a boss, straw boss, and sub-straw boss set up.
Oh, Ma.
Just a second, Ike. What's the matter up there?
Ask Mom where my pants are.
Mom's outdoors.
I can't find my pants.
Well, I'm very sad, but I don't see how I can be of any assistance. Please don't holler anymore.
What?
I say please don't holler anymore. I'm talking on the telephone. Pardon the delay, Ike. Where were we? Oh, well, like I told you, they handle their boxing department situation pretty much like we do.
Vic?
That's right.
Vic?
Just a second, Ike. I'm on the phone, kiddo.
Ruthie?
Ike Niesuffer.
Oh.
My apologies again, Ike. Yeah. Okay. Goodbye.
What's on his mind?
Nothing much. Just wanted to talk some shop.
Where's Willie?
Upstairs. Kiddo, I have grave tidings.
How you mean?
Bad news. Sit down here beside me so you won't be in danger of falling heavily to the floor. When you went outside a while ago, Hank Gutstock
I got
telephoned.
bad news myself.
Huh?
Stuck my neck out into the middle of next week.
How so?
Well, go ahead with what you started to tell.
Hank Gutstock horned in on the ride to Chenoa.
Oh.
Say, I couldn't help it. Circumstances so adjusted themselves, I was
Well,
powerless
hey,
to prevent...
don't make this any more complicated than it is already.
Is it complicated already?
Horrible.
Seems like we never arranged to go riding with the stem bottoms, but what misery and heartbreak enter into the picture.
I know.
Makes a guy a little tired. In the case of Hank Gutstock, though, I was powerless
what's this
to prevent...
now? Hank ain't even acquainted with Fred and Ruthie. Beside that, he knows I wouldn't any more ride in the same automobile with him than I'd choke Billy Patterson. You didn't invite him.
I'll explain. Hank was in the office this afternoon and said something about getting together this evening to do some work on the lodge ritual. We got a notice from headquarters the other day that we're supposed to make some revisions. So Hank inquired about my plans for tonight. I told him we had accepted an invitation to take a spin...
What's the matter up there?
I can't find my pants.
Well, I haven't got them down here.
Where are they?
Well, how should I know? Look around.
I have looked around. Looked in my clothes closet, my dresser drawer, and all over.
Well, they're
here.
bound to be up there someplace. Don't be so helpless. Goodness.
Kiddo, the thing of it is...
I don't know what this is all about, but I do know Hank Gutstock's not going to go riding in Fred and Ruthie's automobile.
Will you let me clarify the matter? Circumstances have so arranged themselves...
Let me clarify the matter once. Charlie Razorscums decided to let Fred tow that old busted-in car of his to Chenoa.
What?
When I was out and back just now, I met Charlie, and he said Miss Razorscum had mentioned at the supper table Mr. and Miss Gook were automobiling up to Chenoa after supper. Wanted to know if it'd be all right if he hitched his car on behind with some rope and come along.
What's the idea?
He needs parts for his machine, and there's places in Chenoa where he can get parts. See, they don't manufacture parts for his kind of auto anymore. Quit making them in the year 1921. But Charlie found out about this junkyard in Chenoa and decided if he ever got an opportunity...
What's the matter with that hyena up there?
I don't know.
Cut out the screaming, doorknob. This ain't the CNA roundhouse.
I can't find my pants.
Where's his pants?
I sent him to Detroit, Michigan, parcel post.
What'd you do with him after you took them off?
What?
What did you do with him after you took them off?
I never had them on. They're my new pants. Mom told me to wear my new pants to go riding with Mr. and Miss Stembottom, and I can't locate them anyplace. Look at my clothes closet, my dresser drawer.
Probably haven't even been taken out of the suit box yet. Tell him to look for the suit box.
Look for the suit box.
What am I going to do if I can't...
Look for the suit box.
What?
Your mother says your new pants probably haven't been removed from the suit box yet. Look for the suit box.
How's the suit box any place?
Well, hunt for it. And quit the hollering.
If it was a snake, it'd bit his head off.
Did you tell Charlie it was all right for him to hitch on behind Fred's car?
Oh, I couldn't tell him it wasn't all right. He said he'd been trying to find a way to haul his machine to Chenoa for a long time. He took it for granted any friends of ours would be delighted to accommodate him.
Fred won't stand for it, say.
Well, he'll scream like a panther.
He'll scream like 9 panthers. Chenoa is 20 miles from here. He won't tug that old lawnmower of Razor Scum's 20 miles.
I couldn't have made any objections if I tried. Charlie talked so fast I couldn't get a word in edgeways. Took it for granted we'd be happy to oblige. Stood there in the alley with his face just beaming. I need 24 new parts for my car, Miss Gook, he says, and this Chenoa junkyard's got everything I want. Your friends can give me a hitch to Chenoa, and me and the mechanics can rummage around old model machines and locate every part I require.
Don't he appreciate the magnitude of the favor he's asking?
Don't even act like he considers it a favor. He's perfectly satisfied any friends of ours would jump at the chance to help him out.
The motor in Fred's old bus can hardly pull the weight it's got now. It'll never stand up under an additional pull. Besides, Fred's particular about his car. Acts like an old woman. If he sees a scratch on the fender, he almost swoons away. And if anybody drops a cigar ash on the cushion, he's a raging tiger. I don't want to be the guy that breaks the news that he's going to tow a broken-down wreck to Chenoa. I don't want to be...
My. Rush, for mercy's sake.
I can't find the darn pants.
Have you looked for the suit box?
Every place.
Well, where's some other pants?
Mom told me to wear my new one.
Have you looked on the floor underneath my dresser?
No.
Well, look. You're not a little helpless baby. Monster's great big boy in high school.
Hank Goodstop's going to meet us out by the curbing at 7 o'clock.
No, he's not either.
Well, let me explain the circumstances.
I don't want to hear any explanations. You appreciate I can't abide Hank Goodstop. I wouldn't any more go auto riding with him than I'd throw my shoes over the People's Bank building. Why, I've told Ruthie all about Hank Goodstop. Her tongue would hang out along the street to Oakland Avenue if I'd said we'd invited Hank Goodstop to crawl in her automobile.
It wasn't a matter of inviting him, Sade.
I don't care.
It's a matter of human decency.
Any human decency Hank Goodstop's got you.
Listen, Hank's got a chance for a job in Chenoa. He telephoned while you were out back with Razor Scum. He called and said he remembered me telling him we were motoring up Route 66 tonight and asked if he couldn't squeeze in with us. Said he'd had a chance to snag a job. You can't cheat a guy out of that, Sade. Wouldn't be human.
Mr. and Mrs. Frederick Stembottom have graciously invited us to take a spin in their pleasure car. Can we calmly inform them we've asked the most notorious no-good in town to come along?
Hank has been shiftless in the past, I admit it. But if you could have heard his voice over the phone a minute ago, full of happy ambition and commendable ecstasy over the thought of a job, you'd have urged him yourself to join us. The guy's got an opportunity to work, and he's anxious to grab it.
Mr. and Mrs. Frederick Stembottom invite us to take a spin in their pleasure car, and we ask the biggest loafer in town to come along.
All right, how about this? Mr. and Mrs. Frederick Stembottom invite us to take a spin in their pleasure car, and we ask a big slob to hitch a wrecked automobile on behind. And Mr. and Mrs. Frederick Stembottom will tow him 20 miles.
He explained that wasn't my fault. Charlie Razor Scum...
Oh, what in thunder's eating you?
I can't find my pants.
I think our young son had best be subjected to some form of corporeal punishment.
Mom said they're on the floor underneath your dresser. They're not on the floor underneath your dresser. They're not any place.
What would you advise doing in this crisis?
Have you looked in the attic way? Have you looked in the attic way?
No.
Have you looked on the shelves of the hall closet?
No.
Well, look. He wears me out to where I can't even get mad.
About Hank, kiddo, you can't turn him down. Wouldn't you feel rotten if you were the means of preventing a fellow human being from obtaining a job? Why, holy smoke, you realize there's a job in Chenoa, and we'll be able to take him to Chenoa and be instrumental.
Telephone's ringing. I'll answer it.
Why, Fred and Ruthie will understand. I agree with you. Hank isn't any society fop. Maybe he don't wear socks.
Oh, yes, lady. Sure we are. You bet. Oh, really? I see. Well, take your time. We'll be ready whenever you drive up. Sure. All right, Ruthie. Tell Fred to take his time and not hurry on account of us. Sure. All right, lady. Goodbye. They'll be a little late. Fred has to fix a flat tire.
Why didn't you tell her?
Tell her.
About Hank Goodstop and Charlie Razor Scum. Why didn't you?
Never had the nerve.
Shucks.
Just never had the nerve. She said Fred was fixing a flat tire. Means he'd be touchier than ever. Fred, we give Mr. Razorscum across the alley permission to hitch his automobile on behind yours. He wants to be pulled to Chenoa. Fred, can you squeeze over and make room for this gentleman? He's Mr. Hank Gutstop that spends all his time sleeping on the baggage trucks over at the Illinois Central Station. Wow.
How are you going to break the news to Fred? Kiddo, how are you going to break the news to Fred?
I haven't the slightest idea.
Mom!
I haven't the slightest idea.
Mom! I can't find my pants.
Sade, he can't find his pants.
Which concludes another brief interlude at that small house halfway up in the next block.